This is macOS Ken.
Considering Apple's mixed reality something, the OS train is rolling again, and a look at iPhone from three sides. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of May, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code macOSKen50 at factormeals.com/macOSKen50 for 50% off your first box. This show is also sponsored by Issue, the all-in-one platform to create and distribute beautiful digital content. If you're already producing newsletters, magazines, catalogs, and such, but feel like you could use a little oomph, Issue can help. Issue lets you turn your flat PDFs into interactive digital publications and social posts for everyone and across a number of platforms. Embed the content on your site, convert it into easy-to-read articles for mobile, send it out to your mailing list, reach your audience on Instagram. With Issue, you can create once and share everywhere. Issue helps you hit the platforms you know with the tools you are already using, folding seamlessly with Dropbox, InDesign, MailChimp, and more. Get started with Issue today for free, or sign up for an annual premium account and get 50% off when you go to issue.com/podcast and use promo code macOSKen. That's ISSUU.com/podcast and use promo code macOSKen, all caps, at checkout for your free starter account or 50% off an annual premium account. That's issue.com/podcast with promo code macOSKen. I said half joking on Monday's macOS Ken that we are likely months away from Apple selling a mixed reality headset, assuming Apple actually announces a mixed reality headset at WWDC. The half joking part was questioning whether such an announcement will happen. It is possible that Apple won't announce its AR, VR, MR facehugger in 13 days. If it doesn't, though, it will be stunning. Daring Fireball's John Gruber summed up thoughts on the issue in a post last Friday. Quoting part of that, "I do think the headset is going to be announced at WWDC. There's just too much smoke for there not to be a fire. And seemingly Apple isn't quietly trying to dampen expectations for the headset behind the scenes. The same thing happened with the iPhone. Before Macworld Expo 2007, there were rampant rumors that Apple's phone would finally come out, and no one hearing from sources that it wouldn't. They might have ideally wanted to announce the headset before this year's WWDC at a special event, but if they want developers to start creating software for the platform, this is the time." Personally, I have worried that my excitement over the headset possibility has clouded my thinking on whether the thing would or will happen. I did have the same thing around iPhone back in 2007. I think Gruber is right about the headset next month at WWDC. Of course, I want Gruber to be right about the headset next month at WWDC, so I almost want to take myself out of it again. Except the signs are there. Or post for the signs anyway. As Gruber says, there's just too much smoke for there not to be a fire. I'd say seems to be, but that's me. I'd said last week that a lot of news felt a bit like controlled leaking, like a person or people telling the likes of the Wall Street Journal, Oculus founder Palmer Luckey, and others, "Don't say you heard it from me, but say you heard it." Whether it's a freight train or a tornado, the noise at this point cannot be ignored, and it just keeps getting louder. Headline from Apple Insider: Apple adds realityproOS to list of potential VR headset trademarks. Quoting the report, spotted by patent attorney Narle Kalapahana, Immersive Health Solutions LLC made a filing in New Zealand on Monday, trying to claim the trademark realityproOS. Immersive Health Solutions is thought to be an Apple shell company that had previously filed for similar terms: Reality One, Reality Pro, and Reality Processor. Now, if you think realityproOS sounds clunky, get a load of this from Mac Rumors. Delaware-based shell company Deep Dive LLC submitted a trademark application for xrProOS, stylized in Apple's xrPro font, on the 18th of May in Argentina, Turkey, and the Philippines, according to online records. The same company applied for an xrOS trademark in xrPro in New Zealand earlier this month. But wait, there's more. Another piece from Mac Rumors says Deep Dive LLC also applied for xrProOS in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK on the 18th of May, but without xrPro styling. And yeah, Deep Dive LLC is also thought to be a front for Apple. If you're wondering why so many names for one operating system running one device, Apple Insider has thoughts. It seems that Apple is using multiple trademarks for a few reasons, says the site. As it has done before, it is doing so now, so it has multiple choices to actually use for its inbound headset and related ecosystem, while also protecting the terms from use by others. As a byproduct of all the filings, the piece continues, it also makes things difficult for anyone to know what the headset and operating system could be called before its actual introduction by the company. Assuming the company actually introduces it. That is expected in just under 2 weeks. Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference 2023 kicks off with a keynote on Monday, the 5th of June. Just days after developer betas of the next round of Apple operating systems, public testers have been called into action. I told you yesterday of Apple seeding the first developer betas of iOS and iPadOS 16.6, macOS Ventura 13.5, watchOS 9.6, and tvOS 16.6 to developers. Now, a couple of pieces from Mac Rumors say Apple has released the first public betas of iOS and iPadOS 16.6 to the public testing peeps, along with macOS Ventura 13.5. If you're among the public testing people, you know what to do. If you're not, but wish you were, go to their house, be one of them, at beta.apple.com. Sounds full steam ahead, but let's hope they've spared some person power to fix something one of the last updates apparently broke. No, I'm not doing the dongle thing again. Rather, iDownload blog has some users of Apple Watch complaining of a grayish-greenish tint to their chronometers since installing watchOS 9.5. After installing watchOS 9.5, says the piece, some people have noticed that there's a gray or green tint in the background of the control and notification center. It's also visible on the passcode screen, in theater mode, and in other parts of the system. iDownload blog figures it is a software problem since, it started after updating the device's software. It's unclear how many people are affected. The piece says most of the people complaining are wearing an Apple Watch Series 8 or earlier. Reports from people wearing Apple Watch Ultra or Apple Watch SE are said to be much rarer. Of course, that could be a function of those devices being much rarer. My Apple Watch Series 7 is fine, by the way. Thanks for asking. More news in a moment, but first a word from Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit and sponsor of today's show. When things get busy, do your meals get drab? Do you sacrifice taste for convenience? You don't have to with Factor. Factor can help you fuel up fast with ready-to-eat meals that are delicious and delivered straight to your door. The sun-dried tomato chicken, the creamy Parmesan chicken, the garlic mushroom chicken thighs with creamy cauliflower sauce. I have no idea how long it would take me to make any of those on my own. With Factor, it's 10 minutes in the oven or 2 minutes in the microwave. No prep, no cooking, no cleanup, and each was incredibly tasty. And each was full of ingredients we can all feel good about. Factor offsets 100% of delivery emissions to your door, sources 100% renewable electricity for production sites and offices, and features sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. Give them a try, and I think you'll be impressed. Head to factormeals.com/macOSken50 and use code macOSken50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code macOSken50 at factormeals.com/macOSken50 to get 50% off your first box. See what has made Factor America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Get 50% off your first box with code macOSken50 at factormeals.com/macOSken50. A thing people thought was going to happen is apparently happening. I told you earlier this month of talk that Taiwan-based Wistron was looking to get out of the business of making iPhones in India. It was believed that the company would sell its iPhone manufacturing unit to Indian conglomerate Tata Electronics. It was also thought that Wistron would keep a foot in both India and Apple, maintaining a unit on the subcontinent that maintains and repairs Apple products. Now, all of that seems to be coming to pass. A report from Economic Times out of India says the Taiwanese company is in the process of selling its iPhone assembly unit in Kolar, near Bengaluru, to the Tata Group, which is currently holding trials for assembling upcoming iPhone 15 models in India. Indications in the piece are that Wistron wanted more of Apple's business than it was able to secure, namely component manufacturing and vendor-managed inventory holding. Plus, there were problems with the workforce. Not that the problems had to do with the workers. Apple Insider reminded readers in a recent article that the factory became a problem for Wistron in December of 2020 after employees rioted over allegations of shorted pay. The incident led to Apple putting Wistron on probation. While Wistron came off probation a couple months later, dealings between management and staff don't seem to have improved over the years. Last week, says the Economic Times piece, 400 senior production staff protested against management, demanding parity in salaries with junior contractual workers, Economic Times reported. Operations are normal now. Hard to blame them for bugging out, though they're not out yet. Though the transfer to Tata is not complete, Tata executives are already taking up key positions, according to the report. As for keeping a foot in the door, the Economic Times says Wistron will continue with its repair facility. iPhone started the year strong in Colombia, so says a release from Counterpoint Research. Not to downplay the market nor the research firm, but it's similar to the story we keep hearing around March quarter smartphone shipments. iPhone rose in a mostly sinking market. That said, iPhone was not the standout in the South American country that it has been other places. For the whole country, Counterpoint says smartphone shipments were off 9% in the March quarter versus the same quarter a year earlier. Xiaomi, Motorola, and the big blob of others helped pull the market down. Still, a number of brands did well. Counterpoint principal analyst Tina Liu is quoted in the release saying, Samsung and Apple increased their shipment share by 50 and 30 basis points respectively in the first quarter. When consumers are skeptical of the future, they will go to recognized brands, and OEMs know this. First place Samsung pulled further ahead in terms of share, moving from 35% in the first quarter of 2022 to 40% last quarter. Semi shipments in Colombia were up 6% year-on-year, driven mostly by the release of the S23 line. For its part, fourth place Apple grew its shipments by 60%. That surge seems to have been spurred by the lack of iPhone 14 units in the December quarter, though Counterpoint says iPhone 11, which was Apple's best-selling model in Colombia, also helped. As well as the somewhat established players did, there is room for new in Colombia, or new to Colombia anyway. The analyst Lou says Honor and Oppo are trying to grow their presence in Colombia, and they seem to have made a decent start. Both more than doubled their shipments last quarter versus the first quarter of 2022, according to the release. And finally today, Apple shares have seen a relatively rare downgrade. MarketWatch says Loop Capital analyst Ananda Barua has cut his firm's rating on the shares from buy to hold, cautioning that the company's current quarter could prove disappointing. The issue, as he sees it, is iPhone. According to the report, Barua said that Apple cut its June quarter estimates for iPhone builds and shipments by about 10% over the weekend, something he thinks brings material downside risk to revenue estimates for the period. There are a couple of things worth noting. Asked about the cut on CNBC, Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring said that his firm had not seen the production cuts suggested by Barua, and in Woodring's estimation, it's too early to call the June quarter. The other point worth pointing out, the Loop Capital analyst doesn't think Apple is overvalued. He just thinks it'll be a bit before it starts going up again, and that things may get rough before it does. While he did lower his rating on the shares, he kept his price target at $180. Apple closed Monday at $174.20. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Issue. Get 50% off an annual premium account with code macOS Ken at issuu.com/podcast. This show is also sponsored by Factor. Use code macOSKen50 at factormeals.com/macOSKen50 for 50% off your first box. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.